What if I told you that going to the gym and lifting as hard as you can isn't the way to look more attractive? You might be confused because everyone on the internet, or maybe even all the lifters you know out there, says that, oh, you need to go to the gym and lift as hard as you can if you want to start building some muscle. But building muscle or strength or slowly getting stronger will not always equals to you looking better. Because back at 2 years ago, when I first started my fitness journey, I also listened to that same advice. The uncles with the old knowledge and the experience of them training in the past, and the teenager with all of the new knowledge out there on how to maximize building muscle, all advised me to, oh man, do some compound lifting, man. And then yeah, I do actually listen to them. I slowly add weights, just focus on compound movements, but I still do like isolation movement, wanting to grow every single part of mine, wanting to grow some part of mine with isolation. And then they said, oh man, stop doing those isolation exercises. Those are for pussies. Those are not gonna make you stronger, bro. That's shallow. You shouldn't do that. You should train for yourself, king. Stop listening to the society there, blah, blah, blah. And then you know what happened? Yes, with consistency and hard work, I managed to pack on some good mass. But from this, I took 2 years to look like this. Look at that belly fat, bro. Just following those compound lifting exercises and just purely chasing muscle growth or strength isn't the way to go. Because the truth is, to get aesthetics, we not only want to simulate the muscle for size, but simulates the right muscle and building yourself into the right frame. And to do that, you don't have to lift heavy at all. Because what the science shows, that training to maximize aestheticness and hypertrophy is totally different than training for strength. It may look similar at first, but it's two whole different trajectories if you want to start going on the path of maximizing one thing. So first, we would need to go through the misconception between training for strength and training for muscle size, especially to become more aesthetics. So like I said, building muscle and strength, which is hypertrophy and strength training, may look the same. They both train with weights and simulates the muscle, but they are totally different. So let's imagine this. This is a rubber band, and this rubber band is the same as your muscle fibers. So the difference between building muscle, which is hypertrophy, and strength training is how you apply force to this rubber band. Let's go through how hypertrophy works in the first place, right? Hypertrophy is basically a two-step process. It's going to the gym, making micro tears in the muscle by training with moderate weights with high range of motion and a deep stretch with high intensity also. And the second part is go home, rest, let those micro tears recover. So you can look at this rubber band. If I consider this to be my muscle fiber, what hypertrophy do is slowly and gradually apply force to this rubber band, but with a lot of time under tension and a deep stretch. It may not use as much strength or like force as training with strength, like about 80, maybe 70% of the weight needed for a 1 rep max, but with slowly again and again, if you just keep holding it at this position, maybe go down a bit at the lower rep, keep stretching it a little bit, then you would start to notice that, oh, this rubber band start to have a little bit of tears. It's not fully torn apart yet, but there are a little bit of tears slowly forming. I just keep pulling it like this, repeat pulling it like this, repeat pulling it like this. And our body is not the same as the rubber band at this part, because rubber band can't heal itself, but our body can. As soon as you see a little bit of these micro tears on the muscle fibers, which in this case I show with a rubber band, it will start to heal itself by you going home, relax, chill, play video games, whatever, anything to lower the stress down and get yourself some good night's sleep. Then your body starts to disintegrate protein into amino acids, help with the process of muscle protein synthesis. That is what hypertrophy training is like. For strength training, it may not look the same. Strength training is more of an explosive type of training. So you look at this rubber band, this is what your muscle looks like, right? Strength training applies like the biggest force, like boom, but it's not really packed with too much reps. So if you do pull it long like this, but there's just like 1 rep or 2 reps or maybe 5 reps, max like 3 reps. Most people train for strength in like 3 reps or something, like 1, 2, 3. Even though there are more force, there are not enough time and attention, or maybe even range of motion to actually maximize the process of simulating those micro tears. Yes, those micro tears will still happen, but it will not maximize that process like how hypertrophy training do. So you can imagine like, oh, it's maximized for like the shooting ability of this rubber band. So if you just keep pulling it like this, it will not maximize the process of making micro tears. It will pew. Oh, that's a terrible shoot on the rubber band. But it will maximize the process of you just shooting this rubber band away, making your muscles stronger and more resilient to weight. So it might look the same that you're applying force to a rubber band. But the thing is, if you know what you want, there is a way to maximize for what you want to actually get more results. Even though at heart it's the same thing, but if you can apply the right principle, your gains will be like, pew, shoots skyrockets away like that. And that's the difference between building muscle and building strength. But now we know what we need to do to build muscle. Purely building muscle isn't enough to actually get you to look aesthetic, because to build an aesthetic physique, you would need to build yourself into the frame that is primarily attractive to women, where that is the V-taper shape. And how would you do that? You would need to focus more on the 9 main aesthetic muscle groups for men so that you can actually maximize the process of getting yourself an aesthetic physique. And those 9 main aesthetic muscle groups are the neck, upper traps, upper chest, lateral delts, lats, abs, tricep, bicep, and forearms. Those are the 9 main aesthetic muscle groups that you would need to focus on a little bit more than all the muscle groups. I'm not saying that you must skip all of the training volume for all of the muscle groups. Still train legs, still train normal chest press, still train your traps, something like that. But prioritize those 9 aesthetic muscle groups a little bit more to make that V-taper and the symmetry of your body pops out a little bit and get that female attention that you always wanted. And when you have successfully prioritized those 9 aesthetic muscle group and built yourself into a V-taper, which is a wider shoulder to waist ratio, preferably about 1.6 of shoulder ratio to waist. After you have done that, it would be like you looking at an hourglass shaped woman. A woman that, oh, you look at the back, she got like a good shape, an hourglass shape. You know what I mean, right? I don't want to get demonetized, but as you look at that, you say, that chick is hot, something like that, and you will like be instantly primarily attracted to it, even though you don't know what her personality is like, what her face is even like, all stuff like that, just because you have seen her hourglass shape. And the same thing goes for women when they look at V-taper men's. They would be primarily attractive without knowing what your personality is first. I am hoping that you have good personality is and what your face is like. Hey, fuck the genetics. Even though I have Asian face, if I can build myself in an aesthetic physique, girl will still want me. So life is not doomed yet, man. But on the path to actually achieve that aesthetic physique, and there's a lot of things you have to cover on. People often make a lot of mistakes, especially when they're trying to train to get hot in the gym, but they just seem to train like they have a different goal. So I'm gonna go through the 3 biggest mistakes that people often have when it comes to training in the gym and not maximizing the process of building muscle to look aesthetic, building the right frame. So let's get into it. Number 1 is, I see this in a lot of people, which is they're not training every single aesthetic muscle. My gym has around 200 members if we're talking about a whole day, right? Of course, there are like morning people, afternoon people, stuff like that. But I have never seen one of them train neck. And even though the teenagers there says, oh man, I'm trying to look aesthetic as you, bro. I want to train for aesthetic also. And it's like, why haven't you trained your neck? I don't know how to train necks. Well, here's how to train necks. I think most people knows how to train the other 8. So I'm just gonna go through how to train the 9th. It's the neck, which most people don't train. Which there's 2 exercises I would do. It's the yes please, which you knock down, you apply some weight on here, and the you know who I am, the arrogant exercise, which you just raise your neck. This also calls as the neck extension exercise. So you apply the weight on the reverse way and you extend your neck. Just like that. That's how you train neck. But not training those 9 aesthetic muscle groups is the thing. People do train those 9 aesthetic muscle groups, but they don't prioritize it correctly. They often just push it or neglect it in the after part of the workout. If you're still fresh, still strong, I would recommend you push those sets of the 9 aesthetic muscle groups to the early part of your workout. That is when you're the most fresh, the most mentally stable, and then when you do that set, you're more likely to be able to reach failure with that, and that causes more hypertrophy, which gives those 9 aesthetic muscle group an actual edge to your physique and actually build yourself into that V-taper. So that's one mistake that I see a lot of people do if they actually train those 9 main aesthetic muscle group. If they're not, try to incorporate all of those 9 main aesthetic muscle group into your workout routine. And the mistake number 2 is they're not training those 9 main aesthetic muscle group frequently enough. The perfect frequency when it comes to building muscle is 2 times a week at least, because from 1 times a week jump from 2 times a week, it would literally 1.5 times your gains. I have made a video on why is this the case. If you want to check out the science behind why jumping from training 1 time a week to 2 times a week, even though with the same set, would give you 1.5 times more gains. But back to the main story. If you jump from 1 time a week to 2 times a week and be able to recover from it, you'll get more gains. Same goes for 2 times to 3 times a week. If you are able to recover from it, you will make more gains. And lastly, it's the same mistake that I have told before on the part that you're not training frequently enough, is you're not letting your muscle group rest for long enough after a workout. 48 hours to 72 hours after a muscle group is trained is the preferred amount of time to let that muscle fully recovers before you jump into another workout and train that muscle again. Remember this rubber band? If you just keep pulling it and pulling it apart, they make micro tears. But after those micro tears are so big and you just keep pulling them and keep pulling them, they will snap. Right now I'm not that strong yet. No, just imagine this rubber band just snap. Yay! There goes my hand. But imagine if it's not there goes my hand, but there goes your muscle. That will be not right? So at least give yourself around 48 to 72 hours after you train a muscle group to let it fully heal before you jump onto another workout. So the point I want to try to say in this video is you don't need to train like all super hypertrophy exercises and train with so much weight that it can only make you do like 2 to 3 reps on an exercise to build muscle. You can build muscle with moderate weight. You don't need to be the best lifter in the world or to be the lifter that trains or like so much sets in the gym at all. You just need to know how building muscle works and prioritize the 9 main aesthetic muscle groups to actually make your body pops, get that V-taper of yours, and get the most aesthetic version of you out possible. And if you're interested in a community with like-minded men who are all on the same goal of building an aesthetic physique like you, the top link in the description down below is my paid community where young men like us can keep each other accountable and share knowledge to each other about building an aesthetic physique without worrying being judged about the society out there that training for aesthetic is shallow, bro. We got weekly accountability calls, courses, and a brotherhood with so much more stuff coming. It's in the top link in the description down below if you're interested in that. And if you want to know what are the copes that young men often pops up in their mind that made them more lazy in the gym and not try out new things, you can check out this video right here.